Happy New Year, everyone. It's this brand new year. And I know for some of us, if you are anything like me, you have this, the new year is an arbitrary date kind of reasoning around this stuff. And so from a unity perspective, we can look at it like this. We can choose to make this new year something, right? Something that comes from our heart, something that fills our heart. We can either default and just go, oh, it's just another new year, or we can have this choice around how we're going to view, wow, this can be a fresh start for me, and I can tap into my heart, tap into my dreams. In this moment, I can choose to do that and make a decision. What will this year be like? Can I look forward in my life and say, wow, there are these dreams that I have had for years that I maybe set aside for a while? A dream to do art, a dream to write, a dream, even a desire, an intention, a goal, to have a certain amount of financial security, like I want to be in that place in my life. Maybe for you, it's romantic or it's a love relationship. And you've had this vision or you've had this nudge that maybe now it's time to move forward into that sort of more intimate and vulnerable space. The new year gives us a special moment, right, where we can look forward with hope, with faith, with courage, and really dig into our own heart and take a moment to examine this present moment of our lives and say, as I look forward, what do I see in front of me? And I know many of you have already begun to do that, right? You start to get these inklings as you look forward to 2019. You start to get these, maybe this is the year that I write that book, that symphony. Maybe this is the year that I engage in classes in community. Maybe this is the year that I finally risk and go purchase a new home. Maybe this is the year that I forgive my parents. Maybe this is the year that I release that resentment regarding my past coworker or boss. Maybe it's time. But as you feel into that, how many of us have set goals in our lives only to feel defeated? Only to feel like, can I really let myself dream another dream? Or is this going to be yet another time in which I start to aspire and then everything falls back to how it was and I lapse back into sort of the monotony of my former life? Can I let myself dream and at the same time do it from a place of reasonableness, a place of faith even? So as each of us takes this opportunity, again, not by default, but as a conscious choice to look upon our new year with hope and with faith, my invitation here as we gather in spiritual community is to remember the words of our founder, one of our co-founders, Charles Fillmore, when he says, we need to learn how to let go. We need to learn how to give up. We need to learn how to make space so that there is room in our lives for our deepest prayers. Because so often in unity, we find that we're all about affirmation. We're all about, this is what I'm going to claim for this coming year. This is what I affirm, and this is what I want. I affirm this good. I affirm this abundance. But what we can often forget to do as much is to remember that for most of us, our arms are already full of the past. And that in order to really welcome and embrace the good in our lives, there must be a letting go. There must be a surrender. Because if you're anything like me, you have this list of the things you want. But there isn't so much a list necessarily of the things you're willing to relinquish in order to have what you want. Can we, if we pray for world peace, continue to hold conflict and disharmony in our own hearts? If we pray for love and new love in our lives, can we continue to hold like that resentment or even like the old baggage of our childhood around what love is or what love is not? Love is sacrifice, love is codependency. If we continue to hold on to those things, our grasping doesn't carry, doesn't hold. We might even, some of you might have found in your life that as you move forward into the future and you're wanting to claim these things, you might actually have like a windfall. Marianne Williamson talks about this, how there are people who, if you haven't done the inner work of releasing thoughts of lack and limitation and stories from the past about worthiness or not, you could have a windfall of finances. And then what do? You go and spend it all or give it away because something in you doesn't believe that you deserve that good. And likewise, how many of us have been in that situation where we want to claim this greater love in our lives, whether with our family, with a partner, with our children, with our coworkers. But at the same time, we don't want to let go of our past stories. And what happens is we start a new friendship. We try to reconcile. And what happens is we sabotage ourselves, right? And so today, we do this most powerful and transformative act, an act that is ideally done every day. But when we come together once a year in this powerful way, we're able to not only do this for ourselves, but hold space in a way that supports each and every other person in this room with that final act of letting go. Because for how many of us is letting go a really difficult task? For me, as I was pondering this, I had a moment where I thought, well, no, maybe letting go is actually not difficult. Maybe if I lean into it, I remember that almost every moment of my day, every choice I make is a claiming of one thing and a letting go of another. What if I remember that letting go is actually that natural? That as I make a choice to go to church, easy choice to go to church, that I'm letting go of every other option or way that I could have spent my time. That every moment, if I'm a mother and I decide in a moment to take my child to daycare so I can go to work, that's a moment of letting go. I release into the care of another, someone I love, and I go into work. And every day we have these acts and these choices of letting go. And so all of us are already doing it naturally. So we only come together to explore that letting go that is difficult for us, right? The stuff that maybe we don't even feel we can do alone. That perhaps we might feel we can do when we're together. So my invitation to you is to consider, what in you do you know, in your gut, you're needing to leave behind? You're needing to drop from the weight of your arms in order for you to gather and claim the beauty, the gift, and the blessing that you know is yours in this benevolent universe for this coming year. What in your heart and your gut do you already suspect is the thing that you don't want to let go of? That maybe here in this space, we can join together in doing. As you bring to heart and to mind that idea, that person, that object in your basement or your attic, or the many objects in your basement or your attic that you know you need to let go of, and everything they represent, as you bring to heart and to mind that. I want to share a reflection that as I was thinking about letting go, meditating on it, you know, there's all this analogies of fire and this and that, but what surprised me was the metaphor that came up for me wasn't about fire at all. But I remembered the year that this dress that I'm wearing, which is a traditional Vietnamese áo dài, which sounds very exotic, but literally just means long shirt. So áo dài in Vietnamese means long shirt. So I'm wearing a long shirt. And it was made for me in the year 2000 by my mother's dear friend who was a famous Vietnamese artist. That same year, I went to Italy and I got to see live, it wasn't like an action thing, in person, Michelangelo's David. That amazing work of art, this masterpiece. Now, I had to look at it from a distance because you might imagine there are like tons of tourists surrounding the statue all the time. But that year, I remember gazing at this piece, this white marble that has endured through all the years. And did you know that there were like 2 other sculptors who were commissioned to create this, but looked at the piece of marble and said that it was too flawed. And so they were unwilling to actually venture and do what Michelangelo did so magnificently and so beautifully. But as I remember this and gazing at this like work of art and witnessing its beauty, of course I remembered this famous anecdote about Michelangelo, whether it's true or not. He's attributed it as saying, in response to people who asked him, "So how did you do this? How did you create this David? How did you make it?" And Michelangelo's famous response is that I merely chipped away at everything that was not David. Life chips away at us, does it not? And even though I have this empowered unity perspective, supposedly most of the time, there are times when life chips away. The universe, God, chips away at my life in a way that is so deeply painful. It feels like it's cracking and breaking me. The universe, I feel like, is doing this to me. When it took away, in my second year of seminary, I lost 2 of my grandparents in the same year, in the same 5-month period. Life's chipping away at what I love and what I value. I remember one year in my transition from law to ministry, losing my home and my job and a relationship. In a time where in that transition, as I was moving forward, I had to step away from being a salaried attorney. And 2008, you guys might remember, the market tanked. And like I lost almost everything. Life chipping away. And so some of us, when we experience this chipping away, what do? Imagine you're David. And the sculptor is just chipping away at you, and you're like grabbing the pieces and super gluing them back, right? That's what we're trying to do, just put it back. I feel naked, right? When life chips away at you, there's a vulnerability that happens. And you want to take back the pieces instead of trusting. Now, here in Unity, we have to be very mindful when we talk about God, because historically, traditional Christianity says God's up there and out there. So there's like this sculptor, this creator, who's like chipping away at me, and I'm a victim of that. But here in Unity, we remember that actually I am one with Spirit. That I am not only the sculpture, but I am the artist. But I have forgotten that. In the moment where I feel like I'm a victim of my circumstance, that this was done to me rather than for me and by me and through me. But if I remember that I am the artist, then I can sink into this remembrance of how, everything that happens in my life is for my highest good. And not just for my highest good, but the magnificence and the beauty that is David is me, the truth of who I am. But that cannot be revealed without that chipping away, without that continual process of how life cracks me open, exposes a new part that I think is just nude, right, of David, but is my beauty and my magnificence. And if I'm willing to surrender and let go of what is already in, I can feel in my gut, meant to go, then I become a co-creator with that one Spirit, that one power, and that one life. Today, we have the opportunity to remember that we are the author, we are the creator, we are the artists of our own lives. And in that place of empowerment, to know that our letting go is an act of standing with the sculptor, being in that presence, and understanding that I willingly expose my inmost being, right? What is called by the poet Blake, your imprisoned splendor. And so, what if this year, Matthew Arnold said, life is not a having and a getting, but a being and becoming. And here in Unity, we deeply know that we cannot have these certain things that we want until we become the person who is capable of having it, a person who knows love and peace from within ourselves. And so my invitation as we prepare now to engage in this process of letting go is to let go as an act of surrender, not to some arbitrary force out there, but surrendering to the remembrance of who you are as Spirit and your power to be part of the co-creation of your own life by being willing to release that piece of the marble that is no longer meant to be part of you in your life, in your unfoldment. And so for those of you who have not done a burning bowl before, I want to share the process with you. The ushers will take care of letting you know when your row is ready to come up to the front. Think of the flame not as that which destroys, but that which transforms. So flames transform. So you allow this thing not to be lost, but to be transformed into another expression of your wholeness and of your being, the one that is meant to be today, this year, in this moment of your life. So I'll take us into a meditation, but in a way I'll bring us out to you then write on your white sheet of paper. Make sure everybody has one. You can raise your hand if you don't. Write on your white piece of paper just one word that symbolizes what you are willingly ready to release. And some of you might be like, well, I'm willing to be willing. You could do that for now. Willing to be willing. And then you come up here, throw it into the fire, and pick up your angel card. But let's take a moment before we do that, because you might have your ego's ideas of like what goes on that paper, but let's see what Spirit has to say, the Spirit in you. So let's just take a moment now to close our eyes and turn our attention within.